All right, we are live. Good afternoon, everyone. Today is October 13th, 2020. We're almost to our 8th month of pandemic with Corona pandemic, but I'm really happy to be back here with the webcast, which is all about hope and freedom and trust building with our webcast, Rise in Unity. The aim of this webcast is to really bring in the focus on the power of collective action, the rise of communities wherever we are in Finland, in France, in Malta. And I have amazing guests today, experts in community building for any business, for any structure, who just held their first Finnish Community Builder Summit. And together with me is Miikka and Lana Jelenjev, yes. And we are in 3 different locations right now. I'm in Helsinki. Miikka is in Archipelago, outside somewhere in the countryside and seaside. And Lana is in Almere in the Netherlands. So my name is Kamilla Sultanova. I'm a public speaker and workforce diversity consultant. So community building is at the heart of everything that I do to get better earning, better working, better living. And I'm excited to introduce you Miikka Leinonen here, who is strategic advisor at Ghost Company. It's all about community building. And he specialized on business design methods, where he will today talk about community building for companies, for HR professionals, and really help us to understand. So, okay, we're here individuals, but here are the companies and institutional organizations and stakeholders. So how can we really use this soft, exciting, but really measurable, impactful community building to really drive transformation in companies? Hi, Miikka.
Hi, nice to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, pleasure. And Lana Jelenjev, she is based in Netherlands, and you just together organized the summit, but you're a community alchemist and you're a learning designer, all about showing and guiding change makers, entrepreneurs, also companies, to really lean into this collective action to build resilience, to find purpose, and really create opportunities for others. So I'm really excited to have you as well, Lana.
Thank you for having us here.
So, we are also having our online audience. So whoever watching with us, I'm really happy to have you. Do send me an emoji and say that you're watching. And at any point in time, send the questions. The community building is for every one of us, and we are all shaping it every single day with our action or inaction, right? So so we will dive right in. Miikka and Lana, you had the first Finnish online Community Builder Summit last week. So what were the key takeaways, and who was it for? I'm really excited to hear it.
Miikka, would you want to start?
Yeah, first of all, it wasn't Finnish. It was global. I think we had people from almost all continents, and I was
awesome.
very, very happy to see that and experience that people were so excited that they stayed up, even though it was nighttime on some other continent, and people woke up really early to join the conference. And it was amazing because we were a bit skeptical of organizing this the Zoom call for a whole day. How would that be? How would people be able to stand that Zoombie stuff? But I think it was amazing, and so I'm always blown away how amazing people are in general.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I definitely would agree with what Miikka just shared. We had participants joining from 3 a.m. their time and staying even up until the end of the summit, which for us was like, wow, truly amazing. And at the same time, like what Miikka said, we've had people joining in from India, from Mexico, from the US, from Canada, and Australia. It was such a globally represented event as well. So for us, one of the things that for myself, key takeaway is that bringing amazing people together is so nourishing. And at the same time, because we're talking about something that involves people, so really tuning into who are these people joining. We had a space in the in the conference where we ask them to share their profile. So who are you? And
Right.
it's just so nice to be reading through different profiles, seeing their photos, the things that that they're doing. So definitely for me, a big takeaway is to bring in more of that, more of our humanity in these spaces, and to
Mhm.
yeah, and to share, to share who are in this virtual spaces along with us. So it's not just a screen, but really having a face, a name, and a feel of that person that that you have with you in these spaces.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think all of us are Zombies and have that a schedule of team calls, of Zoom calls with no web camera on, and it's just draining your energy. So I think we're all are really interested to hear, how do you create that feeling of community, but then take it into use to build better companies where people feel belonging, employers want to be noticed and wanted, right? So if we can go to the pragmatics of your summit. You had a panel debate, you had keynote speeches, you had some I guess you had some other interventions. Tell us what was it like that you had people from continents and 100 people or more, right?
Yeah, so
Lana, go ahead.
we had about 150 that registered
Mm-hmm.
for the summit, and we did have keynote speakers and workshops that we did. So we divided the day into two different topics. So the first theme is all about you as a community leader.
Yeah.
And then the second, the one in the afternoon, was all about community engagement. So for us, those are
Mhm.
the two major topics that we wanted to start with, mainly because it's one, for especially for the community leaders, we seldom talk about the work that we're doing as community builders or community leaders or community founders. So it
Mhm.
was nice to talk about this uh, things that we do together, and at the same time a conversation in the panel about burnout for community
Mhm.
builders, and toxicity within community. So that was very interesting to really give space to. And then in the afternoon we had again the keynote speakers from Thomas the human beast, and Christine, which is a community activator from the US, and they both gave very very different yet very profound ways or lens in which we can see our work as community builders. And
Mhm.
the topic on community engagement has been engaging.
Yeah.
A lot of gold nuggets of gold with the responses there.
Okay. Mika.
Well, um, for me, it's always very interesting, and first of all, it's scary in the beginning to see how well people start interacting and how will they engage, and so so amazing. Of course, people involved in community building, they embrace this kind of things, and they were all jumping in and wholeheartedly. So the content that people produced and the discussions, the quality was so high. I was so amazed. And I hope that this kind of rhetoric and these discussions, there's more space for this in different organizations. So inside organizazations, but outside. So to
Okay.
have these dialogues, it's very important.
And did you have when you say community leaders, is it more from nonprofit or business? Oh, so how do you make sure that everyone feels, regardless which public space or if they're from the nonprofit or profit, how do they adopt this idea? Hey, I'm actually a community builder or organizer.
Yeah, we had, I would say both, right, Mika?
Yeah. We try to focus a bit more on the non-profits,
Yeah.
and we as we had this like a disclaimer that uh, to say that this is not for those who are just seeking for profit, and people who are building these communities, which are not actual communities, but you're trying to create something that you can use. So
Mm-hmm.
we try to cut that part off.
Yes.
So, but I think we had both from business and from nonprofits.
And which is also the interesting part, because a big lens that we'd want to share in the world is how we can go from transactionalism to transformation within communities. And that was one of the tools that we had in the Community Builders book. And that is also one of the tools that we shared in the engagement part, because we'd want to also start shifting this mindset of, okay, it's okay to start as a community that is more transactional in nature, like brand communities, or if it's related to the work that you're doing. But then to really evolve it as a community, we'd want to start seeing people not as our audience, but really as part of something bigger, as part of something that we're creating, or the mission that we have. So it was also a very interesting discussion on how we can shift that mindset of transactionalism and offer more transformational activities and processes within the community.
Okay, and we have a listener here, Mariam Ahalaya. Hello, Mariam, and whoever is listening, tell us, what does community mean to you? I think it's important to also recognize how we understand it, because for some it's just a Facebook group. For second, it's a cafe where you can always feel you can go and buy a croissant and give a hug. Okay, not now. We have so much physical distancing going on, but it's from the 14 episodes that I've done before, I really shared a perspective on communities from a view of cafe owners, from futurists, from academics. We have on branded communities, from entrepreneurs, and it's really a rich way to understand what is at the core of it. And so my learnings is that it's all about trust building and really spreading the social capital into that. It's not giving hope also to Finnish community and diverse community, that everyone has a space in under the sun, and that we can really give the opportunities and the promises that the Finland as a country and society offers. But the learnings were 3 of them, if I may share right now, is that you cannot build resilience with being in one of your small box, either as individual or as an organization. Working on cross-sectoral projects today with universities, municipalities, nonprofits, we're really all about talking about collaboration. At this moment, we have State of Europe, the high-level annual event on state affairs in Europe. And yesterday, the first session I joined was all about trust building, solidarity, storytelling, and how do you actually build these communities that people will trust, because there's so much of trust broken at the moment. Second learning is that you are, whoever you are, an active part of shaping and really creating communities feeling around you with action or inaction. And as we're talking about different identities, we all need to embrace that universal sense of identity. First of all, knowing there's something that excites you, you're curious about, you have a space to go where you feel psychologically safe. That's your first community, either playing football or going around for charity or volunteering for a local flower rescue shop. And then the third one, and that you really build yourself up so that you can stand out, but you still belong. So that is second learning, that you're always shaping. And so we don't need to think that someone has to fix it for us. And the third lesson is that companies, public stakeholders, they all can use community building to really shape the company culture. I promote this for building more diverse, inclusive practices and tapping into different talent networks around the city or countries, so that, yes, you can make profitable businesses because you create space that people are feeling creative, psychologically safe, and they feel, that's where innovation can thrive. So here we're talking about not just profits, but really about promoting social justice and being profitable. So this was my lessons here. So if we say that we talk about community building for nonprofits, and of course we have a lot of burnout in any sphere right now with Corona pandemic, we still don't know how hard we're going to be hit. How do you see community building as a business case for CEOs to believe in, Miikka?
what you said about trust is I think it's the key thing that companies need to. I think they need to reinvent the trust and ways of building the trust, because it's from person to person. So it's how do you get people to spend more time with each other and have that video on when they do that? How do you make people, and
True.
and how do you allow people to share their personal stories to make them grow together and understand where the other people are coming from? So I think that is one major thing that I think business owners, CEOs need to now figure out. And a couple of other things I found, which the second thing is that how do you define your company or your community? Is it where are the borders of that? Is it just the people working in the company? Is that it? Or what about the company fans? What about the clients, customers? Are they part of the community? I think there's a possibility to reinvent that as well, to figure out who is working for you, who is working with you, who is on the same journey with you, to broaden your idea of a community. So it's not just your colleagues. They can be anybody. I think that's like the second thing, at least. And then there's, of course, like leading with the purpose, highlighting and telling the story of the purpose, and then letting people loose. Let them do what they do. Let them make their own decisions and not try to control them. Have them have this freedom, but led with purpose. So
right. So if you talk about elements of community building, you have a interesting book, which super pink, by the way, if everyone wants to check it out. Super pink, I know. It's my bag color. So what are some of the elements of community building that are easy to remember for anyone who's listening right now?
Yeah. Well, when Miikka and I were writing the book, to be honest, this is also something that goes within the trust principle that Miikka shared. We haven't met face to face, and yet we were able to do a book together, and at the same time put a summit together, and that forms part of that trust, right? And this is something that we really need to emphasize, especially at this time of pandemic, where there is more of like an intuitive, people would want to just be on their own, but the more that we can trust each other, the more that we can do things together. So that's just one thing. I would say, when we were thinking about putting the framework together, one of the things that I do with clients and with the work that I do with others is to start with who. So I learned this from one of my mentors, Michelle Bachman, and that idea of starting with who rather than starting with why really resonated a lot with me, mainly because we are convening people, we are designing communities for people, we are tapping into the strengths of people. So starting with who is definitely a big a big process, and that in itself can go from understanding the ecosystem that they're part of, understanding their needs. So not just looking at the deficit, those that work more on the needs assessment. So we're not just doing the needs assessment, but also looking at what are their strengths, what are the capacities that they have. You were already sharing a while ago how part of the learning is that when we do capacity building within communities, then businesses, society, we all flourish. So how do we amplify that? And that is part of the start with who process. And then of course we need to really understand the why. Understand why are we doing this? What's the change that we want to see in the world? And I think for a lot of organizations, they have articulated their vision and their mission statements. However, there is a lack in terms of how to envision, and also plot in that theory of change. What is that change that you would want to see within your organizations, with your companies? And then, of course, to be more practical with the how, what are the simple strategies that you can start doing now that can help you to say, okay, I'm looking into my leadership, I'm looking into the engagement of in my community, and at the same time, what are the specific activities that you can start that can help you start building that community and the foundation of your community. So for us, it's really the who, why, and how, that we
Who, why,
frame
and how. Those are the things we need to remember. Who,
yes,
why, and how you're going to build, engage, and empower so people can actually be part of community, contribute, but also get the support. And that's because
exactly.
we talk a lot,
And
community is nothing if it's not reciprocal, right?
yeah, and if I may add, I think for me, of course, it varies. I'm looking at different tools in the book, and what's my favorite? It's changing all the time. And now what I'm thinking is the one of the most simple questions for any CEO, any leader, is to uh, take the role of the employee, take the role of the client, customer, anybody, and ask, how does this make me? What does it make me feel?
Mm,
Who does it make me? Uh, for example, if the company has a strong purpose, that helps me define myself,
mm,
and that creates this warm, fuzzy feeling inside me. But if there isn't that kind of a great purpose, I'm lost. So looking at things from the community members' perspective, I'm thinking, what does that make me? I
right.
think that's one of the most interesting questions for me now.
Mm. Which is quite a balancing act right now, right? We are in a terrible situation where, I mean, I come originally from Uzbekistan, and the whole country is suffering the impacts of pandemic, and they just need to get through this instead of focusing on, okay, where can you apply community building? We see community building in a rise of volunteer culture, and one of the first countries to really award everyday citizens was Uzbek parliament. There's a youth agency there, and I really encourage young other countries to really say, like, these are young people, these are elderly, these are groups who just went out there and helped when there was no other support networks, right? But I mean, even in Finland, there is a fear of failure. There's a huge taboo of failure, and I've seen different webinars where they like say that they CEOs or leaders or HR, whoever, they're afraid to say that they use an app called Headspace. Do you know Headspace?
Yeah, I forgot. Yeah.
Oh,
Oh my
like,
god.
what's the problem? It's a nice meditation app. I run with it. I bike with it. It's a really cool app. And no, don't say that I use that. So I think we need to really move on to this idea, like, okay, do we live our purpose, or do we just, fit in the image that expected of us as organizations? Now we're talking a lot about purpose. I want to bring in Jay Shetty, who shares really nicely how to put this purpose into, like, so what is purpose? It starts from curiosity. So you actually lean into a curiosity and start doing things that really make you matter and you're interested. And then you turn that curiosity further to passion. So the second pillar of passion, you do stuff that you love. You get opportunity. So it's not longer privilege, but it's your calling. And so when you turn your passion really something higher, that becomes your purpose. And I think this is where it's an ideal way to really see everyone thriving within their potential. And that's why I love what I do, is because, I get to interview you. I get to be better on community building and really show it to companies, say, it's okay to be yourself, and bring this forward to universities, municipalities, youth organizations, and I've been really vocal about this on European Union level, because that's also I feel part of European community. So I think this is way, it takes years. I'm not saying that it's easy to do. So, and then it becomes more difficult when we're come from different diverse backgrounds and values. So that's one of the last questions I want to ask, last questions, is that How could community building be a force for diversity inclusion in any space? Because we're here talking about, again, media, public space, education space, companies. What's your take on that? Miikka and Lana.
Well, I think we need to experience the value of other people. For example, as I'm writing my new book, I had a chat with my co-author, and she had some very different ideas than I did.
Okay.
And I was a bit struggling with that. Like, that's not at all what I was thinking. But then I understood that that's a good thing, isn't it? That we have different perspectives. But I think it's that is a question of self-esteem, partly. That you need to have a healthy self-esteem to appreciate, and I think that is something that the companies need to have, a healthy self-esteem. Of course, there are moments of doubt, and there are struggles, but there, for any community to embrace variety and embrace differences of opinion, it requires healthy self-esteem for the whole. So I think that's what's needed.
Thank you, Lana.
So for me, when I think about diversity and inclusion, I definitely get into this lens of, okay, so what does that really mean for myself and for the communities that I'm part of? And I think we've been emphasizing this since the start of, we need to be able to define this for ourselves. And when we have the when we have the language for it, when we have the ways in which we can define it, then it's also too easy then to share it with others and get buy-ins from others. And I think this is that part that we are losing somehow, because it's like diversity and inclusion is just thrown in in conversations without really asking, but how do we really operationalize this as a community? And each community can use that in exercise in different ways. So one community can see it in terms of the activities that they do, and one community within leadership. So for me, when I think about how can we really cultivate diversity and inclusion within the communities that we're part of, the first thing that I would nudge is to look at the direction of, what is your operational definition in the first place when it comes to diversity and inclusion? And when you have that, story, that narrative filled in, then you can also look at, but how do I express this? How do I see it in practice? How do I feel it in practice? How do I hear it in practice? And when you have that fuller picture, then you can share that with others, so not just within the leadership team, but also with your employees, for example, or for those that are part of your members in your community, and get the collective ideas as well. So it's not just that, oh, I have this operational definition of what diversity inclusion would mean, then we just run with it. No, it also means, how can we make it as a collective definition? So your definition might not be the same with the collective. So, and then how do we get into that conversation? So for me, it starts with that, of creating that narrative with regards to diversity and inclusion that is important for us as individuals, and then channeling it out further, to our teams, to our members, and then together, trying to make sense of it. So that's why for me, sense making within communities are very important, and to be able to say, okay, moving forward, this is what diversity and inclusion means for our community.
Right. I think it's also with operationalizing, it's also like really bringing those voices forward, right? That you need to operationalize not top bottom, but also bottom up. So that's how community really works and feels, right? That people feel able, they're free to contribute their mind, however different it can be. There's been a great momentum on diversity inclusion in the Finnish community, and to those who are listening. So there is a great understanding of Finnish community building in Finnish cultural phenomena. It's called talkot. So talkot is a collective gathering of people in your neighborhood, in school, to clean up your area, or fix your kayaking space, or fix your biking shed together. Afterwards, everyone gets a sausage or pizza or beer or something else, and that way you feel everyone has contributed and you feel everyone is equal. And I thrive with community building to open this up in Finland to people who are not Finnish by birth, or have a different ethnic background that look different. So like that they feel also, hey, we want to have companies that feel like talkot cultures, right? Or whenever everyone is in a sauna, people don't really talk in Finland, right? But once they get into sauna, something else happens. Chick, and they start talking. And I think that understanding of how do you create that feeling first, that hey, this is diversity inclusion for us. Nobody needs to be scared of opening up the community or company space to different target groups or different representative groups. But I'm really happy that you say that. It's all about how do you bring that narrative into where it's from positive space, and that collaboration is needed for the common good of the company, where everyone's perspective is needed to like go forward. So I'm a Citro Lab alumni, where we do all these creating new working cultures, and to really say that self-esteem of company or individual is really also showing how acceptive we are of different perspectives. And I think what we need to understand is that just if someone has better ideas or better knowledge, it doesn't mean it's a threat to your personal profile. And I wish more people understood that. And it takes time to say, well, no one is threatening your profile, but the less is not more, more is more. So, so in that sense, I don't know, what are the barriers? Yeah, go ahead, Miikka.
Can I offer one more angle to this? That I think this crisis is opening this door that we should be able to ask, like, if we're talking about company, like, where is our company? And if somebody says, well, our company is based in Helsinki, well, it's not based anywhere. It's every company is a global company now, because everybody's working from home.
Yeah.
So that takes a long time, and I think we're just taking the small steps towards that, to understand that people can work from anywhere, and so let's start creating these companies and communities that are like truly global. Why not?
Right.
I think I would jump in on this, that this idea that the pandemic has opened borders for everyone, mainly because now everybody's on a playing field, online. this is now the playing field. And this is also the connection field. And for me, what was very fascinating with the summit was just really having, so many amazing people in one space, which you could not easily do. I mean, we've planned the summit in less than a month, Miikka. So given that timeline, you wouldn't be able to put 150 people together from different parts of the world in one space, and yet we were able to do that within the summit. And this is the opportunity that we have right now, given this pandemic, of re-envisioning what is possible. Companies, communities, organizations, we need to rethink of, okay, what can we take towards a new future. So really rethinking how can we create different systems of connection, how can we create different systems of conversation, communication, so that we don't also say, oh, we're zombies, but what other ways, what other ways can we communicate? And this is the exciting part. When we're in a space of chaos, we get to be creative. and
That's it.
and this is that, how can we tap into this creativity so that we can better show up within, the spaces that we're part of, and invite also others to show up. So for
Mm.
me, as a community alchemist, and this is also why I use the term alchemy, is the transformation. There's a transformation that happens, and it's happening right now given this pandemic. So it's an
Yeah.
exciting, very exciting space to be in.
Thank you so much for raising this. This is really special. And I feel, I mean, a lot of people that I speak to on the webcast, and people come back to me afterwards and say, I really watched your webcast and I'm trying to move to Finland. People from all over, there's different connections to Finland and also communities. And it's really nice to get that feedback from people who you absolutely don't know and experience that special links. So which companies are good at driving these community efforts? Can you give some examples?
Well,
I
I
can
can.
say it anytime, but go
Yeah,
ahead.
I
Go ahead,
can
Lana.
give an example, which is, this idea of a different way of working together. So there's this group that is in Inspiral, and they're
Inspiral?
from New Zealand, and they started out as professionals who wanted to work together. So it's a
Okay.
collective, and the work that they're doing is phenomenal, and they're all also creating those Inspiral groups also here in Europe. So mainly
Mm,
that, this idea of how can we recreate different ways of working together, and that's, Inspiral, the value web. These are definitely examples in which, as a collective, we're doing things differently. So I do hope
right.
this is something that we can surface more. I just recently talked with the author of The Collective Blooming, Joe Lightfoot, and he talked about the rise of collectives in
Mm,
communities and the importance of collectives. So I think this
mm,
is something to really look into, in terms of how can we tap the collectives that are now here, and help them in flourishing, because there's really a big aspect of community building in there.
right. Thank you. So Inspiral and from New Zealand. Miikka, do you have any examples?
It's kind of self evident that those companies who are seeking for the younger talent, they typically
Mm,
need to embrace this idea of openness and sharing and community building. So typically the tech companies have these qualities within them. But
mm,
I would also open it up a bit more and ask, like where is the creativity and decision making in within the company? Because I believe that in a healthy community based company, the creativity is in between people. So people need to share and spend time with each other, but the
right.
decision making doesn't have to be shared.
Yes.
Individuals can make the decisions,
Mm,
and so it's agile, and things can move very fast because people can work independently, but they need to create stuff together. So
right.
any company that has these qualities, I would say, is a community based
Right.
company.
Yeah, I could bring up the company Frantic in Finland, and
Yeah,
Futurists. They create really amazing
yeah,
experiences online and events. They really engage with the local community. On the NGO side, International Working Women of Finland are doing wonders. It's a collective of women who are people who are Finnish, people from different backgrounds, spouses like myself, who join in and really try to drive engagement and bring their own initiatives. And it's for that Finland has all the space for civic engagement, but also really driving change and so also pushing for diversity, inclusion, and representation of immigrant women in the job market. So doing really great stuff. But of course, it's not just limited to Facebook communities or companies. There is great individuals like artists. We have choreographers. We have cafe owners and people who are creating football fields, football experiences every weekend despite the weather. So I think we need to recognize them. So my idea with this webcast is also to bring in, and I did send an idea to State of Europe saying that Europe should have European Community Appreciation Day. this day would really showcase that with the coronavirus, the rise of communities, despite this, pandemic, that we have and we need the support networks, and that it can be awarded to individuals, to organizations, regardless of the sector that they operate. And it's not necessarily sector-based. I think we all can vote in who of us make us feel belonging, make us feel, hey, we can really do it. We can laugh at the same joke, and that space of collective experience. I hope that they will listen to it. We have European Day. I think it's 9th of May. So that could be, let's say, put into European Community Appreciation Day. So
yeah.
So, but we need to wrap this up. I really like the ideas. I need to. It will come out later on YouTube. Thank you, Lana and Miikka. But what are the barriers still? What are the barriers, that we need to be aware of? And if everyone has a question, it's your time now.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I'll chime in on what Miikka already said, about, and what you also said about, Headspace and why some people are not sharing that they're using that app. I think it's the vulnerability piece. A lot of community leaders do not have also those spaces where they can share about what's going on with them. So, and then we fail, and then we fail as communities because our leaders are not supported. So vulnerability within, community founders, community leaders are very, very important. How are we creating spaces for that, for community leaders to be able to talk to each other, rant, and, share, challenges, because that way is also, emotional hygiene is important. And if you're not providing those spaces for the leaders of communities, then we're failing communities. So for me, that's the biggest barrier. It's still a taboo if we talk about toxicity in communities, if we talk about burnout in community leaders. And this is something that we really talked about in the summit, mainly because we want to bring those issues forward. So for me, vulnerability and emotional hygiene within the leaders themselves are very important, and can be a barrier if those are not provided within the community.
Okay, thank you, Lana. Vulnerability. Miikka.
Yeah, if I look things from the business perspective, I think it's the question every leader should ask is like, what is my idea of a company, and who created that idea, and is it up to date, and should I refresh my idea of a company, like really create the basic understanding of what is this that I'm leading. Is it something that was invented 100 years ago or 200 years ago, or can I reinvent it now? So that's the. And
so it's again, you're looking at yourself, inside yourself.
I think that brings. I think today, if somebody starts thinking about like, what is the company? The description is very close to community, I would say.
That's right. I think we should recognize we have a community, you want it or you're not, because we are in a group. But then how does it taste? How does it smell? How does it feel? You name it and you share it, right? So it's really in the eyes of the beholder. We have Henrika Jansson Tonder sharing, love these conversations and would love to be part of them and part of them too. Thank you, Henrika. Really great. Is someone you know? Maybe someone of ours. Really happy, Henrika, to have you with us. I'm really looking forward to people tell me, what does community mean to you? Because also understanding that shapes your behavior towards being part and being supportive. So I'm excited to see your book. Where people can find you, Miikka and Lana?
Well, the quickest would be through Ghost, Miikka.
Okay.
Yeah, ghostcompany.fi is the address. There's a lot of more interesting stuff there as well.
Right, ghostcompany.fi. And Alana, you are.
And if you'd want to really connect more, we're in LinkedIn very active, or if you want to check out the learning experience design, then it's at dreamseedo.org.
That's great. Well, I can say I've been part of the workshop which Jussi and Miikka did here in Finland. And objectively speaking, was really well organized. I got so electrified in a positive way that finally I feel I met like-minded people who do exactly this community building, to really feel vulnerability, to, that find that force that you need to collaborate for common good, and that feeling that we can all create that, that we brought that, you kind of woke us up, Miikka and Jussi. It was really cool. So really nice.
Thank you.
Henrika adds, and thank you, Miikka. Henrika adds that you guys rock, and I love the question of reinventing what a company is. And other like-minded, brave, bold international change makers is what this community means to me. Awesome. High five, Henrika. I feel the same. And I'll give you my Mehendi hand. I just did this Mehendi last weekend. High five. Do you know that, Miikka? The Indian henna art?
Yeah.
Henna.
But
Yes.
I think I've seen them on the other side of the hand.
I did, but this already got off. Yeah, I had it. But thank you so much for joining. I really had a great time, and I really hope that it does offer some specific ways of looking at it. That every organization, every space is a community, and we should really treat it like one. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for having us.
And stay healthy, stay safe, and enjoy the autumn. And everyone else, thanks for joining, and stay tuned. We need to have one more episode on sports that's coming up. So take care. Bye.